Hi, everybody. I'm John Self. Hi, everybody. I'm John Self, and welcome to Lunch and Learn today. We're in the process of redoing our studio, and so we're making some audio improvements and some other things, getting the lighting better, and we will be adding a stand-up feature before the April boot camp. So it'll give us some flexibility to do more live streams. Thanks for joining us today. We have a great program. I hope it's a great program for you. We're going to talk today a little bit about the brands and how there are little niches in brand areas that will allow you to take advantage and leverage your excuse me, and leverage your abilities to stand out in the job market. So want to get busy today and work on some things with you. So let's bring that up and get started. This is really, to be honest, this is really about helping you elevate your career journey. It is really an interesting job market. There are a lot of people out there looking for work. And people say, yeah, but there are all these jobs. Some of those jobs are not available, and and they're not being filled. But when you get into the management in the executive levels, there are fewer jobs available than there were prior to the pandemic. And so you really need to you have to be really, really competitive. You have to use every skill, every advantage you can to compete effectively. This is a zero-sum game. And in some environments, zero-sum games are really not appropriate. But when you get into football games and somebody's going to get the job and somebody's not, it's a zero-sum game. And so you have to be really competitive. You have to understand what the client is looking for, and then you have to be prepared to tell your story in a compelling way so the client will recognize that you're the best option. So let's talk about some terms today. First of all, management executive job market. As I just said, it has shrunk and it is continuing to shrink. Companies post-pandemic are saying we don't need as many executives as we've had before. We learned how to work with fewer people, and we're not going to be adding those people in the future. We're not going to add them back. So the job market for the career management is really what we're focusing on today. Now, what is a career brand? Well, a career brand is how you're known in the community. It's your reputation, but it's also your record of accomplishment and how you promote and present and communicate yourself. So that's what a career brand is. Now, a brand niche, everybody knows what a market niche is. It's a little segment of the market that you're either selling to, and in this case, we're talking about a little segment that you're going to try to leverage. So that's what a brand niche is. Now, leverage, it's the simple process of elevating, and then we're going to integrate all of this into your value brand statement. So today's focus is really identifying leveraging a brand niche. And so that's what we're going to focus on, and that's what we're going to try to give you some tips on what to look for and how to move forward. In this market, you've heard the old expression, everything in the kitchen sink. We threw everything at it and the kitchen sink to get the job. Well, in many cases, that's exactly what you have to do. And most people are not fully using all of their skills, all of their advantages in a job interview. And so we really want you to really be very thoughtful and really do a deep dive into who you are, what you're good at, what you think you can, your skills, and how you're going to be able to respond to opportunities. And so that's really something that a lot of people don't think about. They think about answering questions. They think about promoting what they've done in the past, but they're not connecting with the client's needs. They're not going in and saying, look, I know you have a turnover rate. I have been extremely effective at cutting back on turnover and improving employee morale. These are all little market niches that you're going to have to learn how to use, recognize, and use. You can't just assume that the employer is going to figure it out, because the person you're competing with is probably, if they're smart, they're in there saying, hey, I can do this really, really well, and then touch on all the points. those are the people that are advancing. So let's look at the management and executive job market at first. First of all, it has the pandemic triggered a reduction. The pandemic decline accelerated and established a trend in organizational restructuring. I mean, there were thousands and thousands of management jobs that were lost, and there were significant declines even in 2022 toward the end of the pandemic. Now, the shrinkage is not reverse course, and evidence suggests it is continuing to escalate at about 4 to 5% per year. So fewer management and executive positions plus increased competition is your new normal when you compete in the job market. So with a continuation of the shrinkage of the market of about 3.5 to 4.5 to 5% in that range, varies with different surveys, that means that it's just going to be more and more competitive. If you're in your 50s, you're going to be competing with people in their late 30s, early 40s. So you really have to be prepared. You really have to put your best foot forward. And you just can't go in there on the basis of what you've done in the past and succeed. Now, not all layoffs are big picture events. During the pandemic and during I went through the real estate bust in 2008, 2009, the market bubble that nearly plunged this nation into a deep recession. A depression, not a recession, but a depression. And we got very, very close to having an epic wipeout in the economy. And these kinds of mass layoffs were very common. People coming down the elevators with banker boxes, people crying, people hugging, people using their office chairs to carry all their belongings to the street, because a lot of people just got laid off. Investment banks, law firms, recruiting companies across the board. Now, these were really, really amazing things. And not exactly sure what's happening. We've installed a new studio mic, and it's showing that it's working. Sorry for this, but let's check and see if we can kind of get this resolved as quickly as possible. Uh, when we checked it earlier, it was okay. Now, tell me, it's Peter. It's currently at 11:43. I've gone back. Do you still hear me? Wait a minute or two, and they'll let me know. Um, they may have had a problem with the streaming system because I verified earlier and we had audio into the stream. So I'm not sure what is going on here. um, okay, it's 11:44. Peter, will you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me now? If anybody else has audio problems, let me know. Okay, well, I don't know what happened. They may have had a loss in the stream. So thanks very much for your help and the others that gave me thumbs up. I appreciate it. What's happening is that consulting firms beefed up during the pandemic. There was a business, and then suddenly, when they got started getting through that, the business fell off. And so the consultants kept a lot of the junior employees around, thinking things would pick back up, except they haven't. And so now, instead of having big layoffs, the big consulting firms, the white shoe firms that are trying to avoid having any embarrassing moments in the press, are putting the excess employments on PIP list, which paves the way for a termination based on performance. Now, so what you have here under quiet layoffs is people are getting fired for performance, but there's no work for them to do, and there's no evidence that their performance had been that bad. It's simply a way to get rid of people without having to pay for expensive severance packages or have all of the issues related to a public layoff. Uh, McKinsey and Company reportedly has put 3,000 junior team members on PIPs. Now, E&Y quietly terminated 100 partners. And, partners being terminated out of a consulting company, that's like cutting into the muscle. Why? Because partners were key to business development. They're the people that bring the money in. They are the rainmakers. One Chicago consultant said, the country club is not safe anymore. And basically what that means is when you are a consulting partner, when McKinsey or Deloitte or E&Y or PricewaterhouseCoopers or some of the other big firms, Boston Consulting Group, once you became a partner, you almost had a career for life unless you made a terrible mistake or violated company policy in a significant way. And so now that's no longer the safe deal. And that's a fairly significant change. And we all need to keep an eye on that, because when firms start cutting into their equity people to cut hours and to cut revenue, cut expenses, that may signal something else that's more significant. So let's talk briefly about the reality of a job search today. The competition for each management or executive position is running anywhere from 150. Some people say they've run into 400 or 500 people for a certain job. So you can see not only is it a zero-sum game, but it is a dog-eat-dog hyper competitive zero-sum game. Now, you cannot. A lot of people rely on online job applications because that's what they've always done. But that's not going to be a good way forward, and you really have to build your network. And again, executives say it is not uncommon to be competing with 100 to 200 other people. Now, the transition time between jobs has exploded from 4 to 6 months to 8 to 14 months. And there are some people that have been around longer out there. People routinely say that they've applied for 50 to 100 to 150 jobs just to get 1 or 2 offers. So the market's very competitive in the executive and management levels. If you want to be a waitress, if you want to do something at a lower level, there are plenty of those jobs. But at the management level, I think this is the new normal. This is what we're going to see going forward. Your professional network that's aligned with your written career plan will become an extraordinarily important part of your future career equity. So let's talk about this. Career brand, we talked about this earlier. In 1997, Tom Peters wrote a book called a magazine article for Fast Company called "The Brand Called You," and that stimulated an unbelievable amount of comment and other articles and books. And suddenly overnight, there were hundreds of new branding consultants in the career business. I, quite frankly, had been talking about career brands in the mid 90s when I was doing the career presentation interviewing course with Craig Hahnemann at the American College of Healthcare Executives. And we talked about branding even then. And I remember seeing the Fast Company, the Brand Call You article a couple of years after we started talking about this. And I think that it was kind of gratifying to know that, we were ahead of the game. Personal branding is about influence and constitutes a strategy one could define as an attack on the job market. And believe me, in the market today, you must attack it. Your personal reputation, on the other hand, is more about the approval from others, but the brand you're basically the core of how you're going to move into the job market. Now, central to your success, you are the CEO of you. Your plan, your brand, it's your success. And you have to be accountable for that. And how you manage your brand, people are beginning to look at that. Recruiters say we are looking at how people manage their careers to determine, we believe there's a relationship with people, how much diligence and attention people give to their own career versus what they'll do for our clients. So if you've got a terrible career progression, if you don't seem like you have your act together in your own life, it's going to be difficult to tell somebody, hey, I can run this department, I can run this division. So that's now coming into play. Now, the key issue, finding your niche. I think in every industry, every job, there are some unique opportunities to differentiate your brand and differentiate your value for those against those whom you're competing. And you've got to think deeply about this. Because if you go in and you're saying the same thing as the guy next to you or the woman who came in before you, you're probably going to get passed up unless you just had an incredible connection with the people that you talk to. And those incredible connections don't happen unless you have a really tailored message. So competing for an executive or management job, as I've been saying, is a zero-sum game. If you don't get it, it's because you lost to somebody else. And we don't like to think about winning and losing in our lives. We don't like to. We may think about that on the golf course or the tennis court, but in our career, we don't like to think that, gosh, we didn't get the job, so we lost. But that's exactly what happened. You weren't as prepared. You didn't connect as effectively. You didn't have your value honed in on the client's needs. Those are many of the reasons why people do not succeed. And so when people get laid off, it's the same principle. You got picked because you didn't have the network, the relationship. They didn't see you as having the value of somebody else. Now, you may say, well, look, I had great progress reports. I just got let go because I had more salary. Okay, but that's really not a great case to make in a job interview. So understand the job market opportunities, some visible, some not visible. When I say that, what I'm saying is there are things out there that we can see that are very, very visible. Some of the layoffs are visible. Some of the economic news is very visible. But how people are being treated within companies and how people are being moved out of those companies, sometimes those issues are not very visible. It's almost like death by 1,000 cuts. Now, one of the things you've got to do in terms of getting ready to really explore your market niche is you've got to be creative. You have to really dig down and really think about all the things you feel you're good at. And you've done this if you've done your value brand statement, but you probably want to take out those notes and revisit what you wrote. And look for ways based on in your industry and in your market, look for opportunities that you can promote yourself. You want to look for market faults. You want to look for leadership failures. You have to really critically think about the market and the organization you're going to interview with. Now, you don't want to sit there and say, hey, you got bad leadership, you got all these problems. No, but if you know about them, you can talk about those in a positive way. I'm very good at limiting employee turnover. That's different from saying, hey, you got terrible problems here. You got a lot of turnover. I can fix that for you. People don't want to be told, in the employers, they're not going to want to be told what their problems are. But how they respond to some of those things, it is really helpful. Turnover, employee engagement, morale issues are all market niche opportunities that you can leverage to promote your own candidacy. And again, this is so important. People, they may look at a company and they do the research, but they're really not looking at the company. They're really not looking for opportunities for how they can sell themselves. The information you're going to get from recruiters is all the pretty much blah, blah, blah. It's the same stuff time after time. Some of it I saw one national firm in Chicago who works in healthcare, and I saw 2 or 3 of their summaries, and I thought I was looking at the same hospital. So it's really kind of amazing. So you really have to do your own research. Now, you have to stay within yourself. If you misunderstand something and you go out on a limb, you can hurt your candidacy. But digging in, there's a way to do that without putting yourself out on a limb. Employee engagement, those are key issues. Nationally, employee engagement is at 33%. And that leads to employee turnover. That leads to, that connects with employee morale. And all of these things connect with poor hiring. Now, you don't want to tell a client, God, you guys you suck at hiring. But if you're really good at it, if you have a record of bringing people on board with companies and you're good at interviewing and good at selecting talent, you don't have to talk about their problems. You need to talk about your strengths and leverage that in the interview. Increase competition in the market. If you've been effective at dealing with and successful in a competitive environment, talk about that. You don't have to say, God, you guys are screwing up and losing advantage here, but I can fix that. You can just be very positive. Know that they have a problem. Use that niche issue to leverage your own candidacy. Some companies lack innovation, and it's pretty apparent when you go in to see them. But the truth is that, again, you want to talk about how, I look for innovative ways with my team so that we can get the job done, serve customers more effectively, and do it in a way that we are all engaged and we are all involved in serving the customer. I've spent a lot of time, building relationships with my team so that I know who they are, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, who their families are, and what's important in their life. And using those issues, I've been extremely successful as a manager. Those are things that an employee wants to hear. And we just went through a whole list of sub-market niche opportunities. Not everybody's great at the office politics and back, glad handing. But if you can do that, and if you enjoy building strong relationships with your teams, and that can be evidenced in references, that's a niche you really want to expand and really power up in an interview. Again, let's talk about leverage. Now, this is the technical definition is exertion of force by means of a lever or an object used in the manner of a lever. And leverage is also used financially, as in using the proceeds from the company to buy the company. Using something to maximize advantage is something I prefer to use. So you need to look at yourself, look at your strengths, look at the successes you've had in the past, and think about, why am I successful doing that? How was I able to maximize that advantage? Really define this, and then use those 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 market niche strengths that you have to look for opportunities in your interviewing. And again, when you're talking about some of these issues, you can convert them into stories, because people are very, very attuned to hearing a narrative, not facts and figures. And one of the things that I ran into the other day, there's an excellent program on Friday mornings that I tune in to all the time, Ron Thomas's CEO series, which live streams from Dubai. And he has people from all over the world come on that show. And there have been some really excellent presentations lately. But one person who came on said, really where people fall short in interviews and in presentations is that they don't show people what they're talking about. Now, you want to show them and wrap what you're showing them around an idea, something they can believe in. There's a great quote that we're using this week that says, if I ask you to think about something, you can choose not to. But if I present an idea that excites you, now we're going someplace. And I think as you try to present your strengths, your niche, the things that you're really good at, those market niche opportunities beneath the surface, you need to try to wrap them in a story and make them really, really come alive for the employer. That's going to help you make a huge, huge difference. Again, we talked about this a little bit, but their employee engagement and turnover is a huge issue. I did some research on a hospital that had a OR, and OR nurses can be very difficult to find. And they had a pretty active OR. They had 50, 60 RNs in the OR, but their turnover rate was getting close to 20%. And they were constantly struggling. They were constantly bringing in travelers, which were even more expensive. And, OR nurses, not only did they make more money than a lot of other people, but when they did leave, it cost you even more to find them and then pay the newer person to accept the position. And so we did a check and found out that their turnover, and it was really a function of bad management, bad communication, bad engagement from management with the employees, was costing them $850,000 a year. And the nursing people all wanted to argue about it. The finance people sat there and smiled, and the CEO was very nervous because he didn't want to report that to his board. But the truth is, there is tons of money to be saved if you can engage your employees. You want to avoid in so many organizations where you have turnover, and that's fairly common. I mean, this is not the exception. You almost can hear Captain Bligh's infamous words: "The beatings will continue until morale improves." Well, good luck with that. One of the strengths that you can bring to the table is this is a fairly big universal problem. And if you are very good at engaging employees, then that's something you really want to, build a little bit of a presentation around. And if you have some examples of how you've reduced turnover, how you've improved employee satisfaction, then when you say that, show them those graphs. Don't give them a big package with just complicated stuff. Be very strategic in how you show them things, because if you show them something and you're telling them a story, you have a terrific chance of hitting a home run. And people don't think of that. You're making a mini presentation. You're not just answering questions. You're selling yourself. And that's why you're going to dig down and look at everything you can, including the kitchen sink. This is a powerful, powerful brand differentiator, and it's something that we're all going to have to be more effective using in the future. Now, other micro leverage opportunities: loss of sales, key client defections, a decrease in customer satisfaction, loss of talent, inability to recruit top talent, declining of quality, loss of focus on details and performance improvement, poor morale, employees don't feel appreciated. That's engagement again. Expenses are exceeding budget because of employee issues. Employees rarely acknowledge these micro issues, okay? Employers rarely acknowledge those issues. But if you hear about those, you see those, and is during the course of being screened, if you say, what's their turnover rate? What's the morale like? What's the culture? The turnover rate is going to be the real key issue. And a lot of times they're going to try to dodge that by saying, I don't know. And just say, well, I'm very interested in understanding that number because that's going to be central to the success of whoever takes this job. So would you give me an idea, if not that department, what it's like hospital wide or industry wide or business wide? You want to really get a handle on that because it's going to tell you a lot about the culture. So these are all opportunities that if you have an ability to really perform on any of those issues, that gives you strength. And if you're aware of these things, and if you're asking the right question in the screening interviews, it can be, you can be better prepared than everybody else because you have better information than everybody else. If you think the recruiting firm is going to give you deep penetrating insight, well, go fly a kite. That ain't happening. So what you also want to do is take all of these, think about all these things that you've done. Think about all those micro opportunities and wrap that into your value brand statement in terms of narrative themes. And you if you think, okay, they have morale issues, they have turnover issues, they have quality issues. Somebody said the other day, companies are really perfect to produce what they produce, okay? But if they're having problems with quality, if they're having problems with cost, if they're having problems with quality, productivity, those kinds of things, it's because the company is rewarding bad behavior. The company is rewarding those issues that are causing those problems to happen. And if you're good at doing diagnostics and saying, why is our quality not good? And here is my track record in improving quality numbers or improving service numbers or improving productivity numbers. And you can show them that on a graph in a presentation in your interview, then that is a very, very powerful sort of package. Now, you don't want to go in there with 30 slides, maybe 3, maybe 4. And, and if you present one and it's not effective, some people might be put off by that, then don't present the rest, but just say, but stress in your narrative how you're effective in that, how you're able, you have experience and you have skills in terms of communication, in terms of building relationships, in terms of paying attention to the details that will allow you to be more successful. Now, when you go into an organization to interview, you're a big question mark. Okay, they are looking at, okay, why should we hire you? And what you want to do is you don't want your demeanor, your kind of blah responsiveness, your sort of just answering questions without really interjecting energy or your personality or your ability to solve problems. Then they're going to define who you are. You want to control that. And how you respond is going to determine your success. So early on, this is extremely important. And I can't tell you hundreds and hundreds of times in my search interview experience, I would say, do you have any questions? No, I think you answered all of them for me. Well, actually, I didn't answer any of the questions. I gave them a very detailed prospectus, but that should have generated more questions. And people do a terrible job, or they'll just kind of write some things down on the back of an envelope sort of effect right before they go in. So they'll just, when somebody says, do you have any questions? They can ask some questions. If you're going to ask questions that will help you compete. Ask questions that will help you identify their market niche areas that you can leverage in your interview. One of the things that George Clooney says when he speaks, he tells this great story that, he was looking for opportunities in show business. And he's from a big show business family. His aunt, his mother, his father, everybody knew who he was, but he wasn't getting any work. And he would go and he said, I didn't always say these words, but my approach, my demeanor was, hey, can you just give me a break? I need a job. And then he stopped and said, yes, I need a job, but they've got a problem. They've got an issue. How can I help them solve that problem? How can I come in and sell myself in a way as not being someone who needs a job, but someone who has the ability to solve a problem? And he said when he did that, his entire career turned around. So it's really, it's not only is it a strategy game and it's a tactical game, but it's also a big time mental game to be successful with your career. Okay. Um, yes, there is more life to a life than work. So the goal is to find work that you enjoy that produces a meaningful result. And one of the things that we see in the current Gen Z group is that they are more than the millennials. All of the research shows that these are people who they care about values. They care that the company is very intentional about being who they say they are and operating in a way that is consistent with high values, customer service, what's good for the country, good for the economy, good for our customers, those kinds of things. Now, a lot of people say that's just woke. Well, no, it's not. It's good business. You know, we won't even go there, but you know, one of the things that you can do is that if you know you can talk about how you have the ability to uh, really come in and be a real strong influence on the younger workers. The millennials are, they have their strengths, but they have their weaknesses. The Gen Z seems more values oriented than any generation in recent memory. And so that is a great foundation to work with. And if you can, if you say, you know, what's the age range of the employee group in this department or in this division? And if they say, well, we've got a lot of younger employees, then one of the things you want to talk about is one of my strengths that I can really help you is I know how to develop people and I know how to engage them in a way that's consistent with the vision and the values of this company. And I pay attention. That's not a one-off experience. I talk with them. I connect with them on issues that are important to them. And I give them an opportunity to offer their point of view, their perspective on how we should get things done. And he said, you know, I've had people tell me that with the younger workers, that's a very, very effective strategy. If you try to manage millennials and Gen X and Gen Zs the way you did the X or your colleague baby boomers, you will not succeed. And so if you have that skill, even if you're 50 or 60, if you have the skill to develop people, that is going to be an extremely important leverage point in your interviews. So I hope this information has been helpful today. I'm sorry we had a little audio problem. Those of you who came in and pointed that out, really do appreciate it. If you have any questions, let me know. Remember, we have office hours tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m., and we're going to talk about the importance of managing your career progression in this new environment. Today, we're talking about how to be more effective in the interview by leveraging, you know, talents that you have that you probably don't routinely think about in a job interview. Those are the brand niche opportunities we talked about today. We're going to be writing more about that. Now, tomorrow afternoon, around noon, our newsletter drops. If you are a member of Your Career Community, you'll see a link on the community page, and you should be getting an email alert. And if you don't, if you've signed up, you should be getting to the membership. You should be getting an email alert when it drops. And we're going to be talking about the quiet quitting. That's not illegal, the way they're doing it, but it's certainly unethical in my judgment. You know, when you get rid of somebody who's not done a bad job, but you basically say they've done a bad job because you don't have the work, then you're really hurting their career. Especially if you move them out of the organization and you tell people they're not eligible for rehire. So that's a key issue, and we've got to think about ways that people can respond to that and not allow companies to really screw them over on when the hours disappear, they don't have the work. You know, they can let them go, but they don't have to give them, they don't have to hurt them twice, as a lawyer said. So that's something we're going to be talking about tomorrow, and it's also in our newsletter on Wednesday. So I hope that you'll join us tomorrow. Then Thursday morning at 7:30, we're working on a really good Career Live for you. That's when we talk for about 30 minutes about new things that are developing and emerging. And that's kind of a summary of the week. And then Friday at 11, we do 30 minutes to 45 minutes of answering your questions live here on your career community. And as we close out today, I want to share with you some things I've been thinking about. People are paying a lot of money for career coaching and career transition. It's not uncommon to pay $3,000 to $6,000 or $7,000 or $10,000. With your career community, we can provide you a lot of services that you're getting from those other guys for $49 a month. Why? Because we have our education online so that you can use it when you need to. Okay. It's really about, being able to do the courses at the end of the day when you have time to do those courses. It's about, we just have a lot of great content. And we also spend a lot of time in group coaching sessions like today. And we will be continuing to do that. And as we learn about live streaming, we're trying to do a better job in tailoring our message and refining our messages so they work well in a shorter format and on with video slides. So we hope that you'll consider joining our community. When you have to, again, if you need one-on-one coaching, you'll be able to buy up on that for an incredible discount. So if you want to pay me a lot of money to do one-on-one coaching, I'm happy to do that. Just write me a check. There's going to be a new product listed on that in the next day or so. So if you want a Cadillac and willing to pay for a Maserati, great. I'll be happy to charge you for that. But if you want to work with a group of people, and if you like group coaching, and again, these opportunities, these presentations, I would love if we'd have more questions and answer questions, because that will then help refine the information. A lot of times you can talk about a concept and think you've got it down and it's going to be meaningful to everybody. And then you'll get a bunch of questions and you really get to the nub of the issue through the questions. So I hope in the future, more of you will be willing to ask questions during the presentation. We will not ever use your name, because these presentations right now are still open. Once our membership tops a certain number, and we've got that set, then we will be having all of this will be for members only, with the exception of Career Live and the question and answer session on Friday. So I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have issues that you would like us to discuss in the future, I hope that you'll send it to me at john@johngself.com. If you have career questions that you would like to pose for Friday morning, you can send those at info@johngself.com. Again, we will not be using your name. So I hope this has been a helpful experience for you, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for office hours. Cheers, everybody.